Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler. With me, as always, is Smitty, rocking that new shirt. I was actually going to get to that in just a second, but be sure to first go follow us on all of our social medias, including all these channels that you listen to the show every week on, whether that's Spotify, Apple, or anywhere else. We've got a new channel that we started doing several months ago. If you search Around the 412, we actually have 3 different channels. Ours is the logo that is Smitty's shirt right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can do that. If not, you can go to Smitty's Twitter or our Twitter. We retweeted it and see what that logo looks like. Go follow us there, and also go subscribe on YouTube. A lot of draft stuff coming up. It's gonna be great. Also, go subscribe to Smitty's YouTube. We haven't really shouted that out too much on the show. I think it's just Zachary Smith PGH doing a lot of draft stuff. So I wanted to shout out my boy. Also, past several months, we've been pushing a lot of GoFundMes. We're going to continue to do so. All of those will be linked in the description of each of the show on the listening platforms and on YouTube itself. And then the last thing, speaking of that shirt, our friend Haley, it made I believe it's called Everything Custom Designs. There's a Facebook shop and an Etsy shop. Those will also be linked in the description of the show on all platforms. And you can go, and Smitty might be able to clarify this a little more. It's more so like as request, like custom t-shirts, and so that's how Smitty got the Around the 412 shirts. I'm gonna get a couple of those myself, but if you want to just shed some more light on that real quick.
Yeah, so I think actually it started out being like custom stuff for baby's clothing when she had her newest baby, Frankie. And she was just like, man, if I'm gonna do this, might as well start doing it for other people. So yeah, so it's a lot of like on-demand stuff. So you say you want something, she'll make it, customize it. She's been doing a lot of stuff for like Luke Combs is here in Pittsburgh this upcoming weekend, so making like t-shirts for that. So she does a lot of shirts for concerts. But yeah, she made me this Around the 412 one. I know a couple people, like I had 2 people DM me and asked if they could buy them. So I'm actually going to reach out to, and people also, she responded because I said, should we bring back the Trust the Bucking process with everything that's going on with the team? Like vibes are very high right now with the Pirates. We're going to get into that
of course
in a second. And she's like, well, you know where to go if you want to do that. So we might be in the very early stages of reviving a fresh version of the Trust the Bucking process shirts, which would be awesome.
What a throwback.
That is kind of, honestly, I know that we started the podcast in 2017. I kind of look at the Trust the Bucking process as really like the start of
That's where it kicked off, though. I mean, it was whenever we had Shane Boz on and we started getting the shirts out to the prospects and everything. That's when it really started to escalate, besides like Sarge and Stubbs and them listening to our show. Other people found us as well.
Yeah. Speaking of the draft, I do want to mention we will be live by the time you guys are watching or listening to this, probably tonight for the first round of the NFL draft. Me, Tyler, a couple of our friends are also going to be on here reacting to every pick in the first round. Tyler and I are going to have dueling mock drafts, and whoever has the least amount of points based off our point system will buy a jersey for the person that we feel like has the best video reaction to the Steelers first round pick. I'm also going to give away a set of Steelers tickets to somebody that's in the chat during the time. It could be at any time during the draft, so you're going to want to make sure you are there for that. Maybe a couple other random giveaways that I decide to do if the audience is high enough and we're having enough fun in the chat and I get enough Jim Beam in me. So we'll see how things are going tonight by the time you guys are watching or listening to this.
The
NFL
or
draft.
Yesterday,
Or it happened yesterday. You guys missed the giveaways. But we will be live for night 2 as well. So really looking forward to the NFL draft. I always look forward to listen, nothing against day 3. The first 2 days I really enjoyed. Day 3, I think I kind of get sad that it's over. I put so much like time and effort into this process, studying these guys, like figuring out which players I like, which ones I want to become Steelers, which ones end up being Ravens and Bengals and Browns, and I have to hate them and all this stuff. And then it's over so quickly. So it's almost like a 2.5 day Christmas that all of a sudden just comes to a very abrupt end. But join us for the NFL draft. We will be live starting at probably 7:50ish p.m. We made the mistake one year of going live around 7:30 and then waited an hour for the first pick to be made. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to make that mistake again. We're going to go live closer to 8 p.m. knowing the first pick won't actually get made until like 8:15 or 8:20. As Tyler alluded to, go check out all the GoFundMes, all the links that are in the description of this. Also, for anybody that is interested in the draft stuff that we've kind of been throwing out there, I just did a live show with Derek Bell. You guys are probably familiar with him if you are Steelers fans. He's got his own YouTube channel. We went live over there for about 2 hours just answering questions from people. And the live replay is going to be on his channel. So you can check that out if you're looking for some pre-draft content during the day as well, if you're catching this before the draft. If not, a lot of it might be irrelevant. So I also might have dropped who I think the Steelers go with in the first round.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm sticking to that pick for a dueling mock draft. I have to. I feel like I got to remain consistent now at this point, just a few, at this point, hours out from the NFL draft.
Right. What time, by the way, should we? I feel like we need to each of us tweet out from like the Around the 412 our 2 mock drafts just so they're solidified. Yeah. Everybody can see.
I would say
there's
7
no
p.m.
in it.
1 hour before
7
the draft.
7 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I have mine basically what I feel like I may go with as my final version already saved in Pro Football Network's mock draft simulator.
Okay.
I don't think any information. Okay, let's talk about. We'll just go with the Steelers first, and the Pirates can close out the show because there's more stuff to talk about the Pirates. I feel like the Steelers is just like, oh, draft is here. But with the Steelers pick, nothing that is said from this point on is going to change my mind. Like nothing within the last 48 hours should change anybody's mind about where the team is going. Former GM of the Atlanta Falcons, Thomas Dimitroff, was talking about this, and it's like, and he was a former GM, so he's obviously been in these conversations and knows what people are talking about. Anything that is said within that last like weekish leading up to the draft is garbage. There's absolutely no truth to it. All the talk now has been one, like the Texans going defense. That might have been a conversation that beat this timeline because that could have been the case the entire time. So I'm not saying that for that. But what I will say it about is Paris Johnson going as high as 3. I don't believe that. Because I think that's a case of a team within like that 7 or 8 range, maybe trying to throw something out there, or the Cardinals themselves throwing it out there to try to get somebody to move up to 3. I think that's just a smoke screen, if you will, being thrown out there. If that were the case, we would have heard about this well before the last 48 hours before the draft. And that was his point. Like that gets leaked well before when it has, if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't see that at all. I mean, looking at the Cardinals, I just don't think that's a move that they would make. And then if it's the bait to try to get somebody up, I guess that makes sense. But realistically, looking at Paris Johnson or just tackle in general, I think that the ceiling for how high they should start is probably pick 6 at most.
Yeah,
and then
I said
move
7
on down from there. Yeah. I think that Detroit, Las Vegas range is where you could see the first one taken. And part of that is just going back to what kind of Jake talked about, like it could, and he actually tweeted it out.
If it's Detroit,
I
think it's Skoronski. Because
that's what I mean. Not necessarily,
and
that's why it clarified to like tackles in general, not just Paris Johnson Jr. But I think it's very realistic that like the Raiders could take Paris Johnson Jr. I think it's super realistic, and where I think I would have him if someone's going to take him within the top 10, that the Bears take him. But anywhere near 3, I think that's a lot of smoke. And then and honestly with the Texans pick, just because you mentioned it, I mentioned yesterday in our live draft. Go check that out if you haven't.
A lot of fun,
that within the past week, I have seen articles talking about CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Tyree Wilson, and Will Anderson all to the Texans at 2, just within like the past like 4 days. And all of them could be realistic, but not all of it is also smoke. That's the last week of the draft. You're going to get the most rumors whatsoever from the whole pre-draft process,
which kind of makes me think they're not set on making that pick, which could be insane if they move out of 2. Like this draft in general is crazy because it's like we feel pretty good about Bryce at 1, and then what? I mean, where else can you say, yeah, that's what the pick's going to be? Like this thing could turn on its head. We said the draft's not going to start until probably 8:15, 8:20. By 8:30, this thing could be totally off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, we in our live draft, and we kind of talked about it. Seeing 4 quarterbacks going in the top 5 picks, that's a very realistic option.
But
when I think about it, I think it could just be 1 or 2 in the top 10 picks. Honestly, I can make the case where there's only probably 2 quarterbacks taken. And you mentioned the Texans moving out. We've talked about the Colts moving up to 3. What if the Colts just moved up to 2 and got their guy? instead and
Yeah.
jump that third spot as
My
well.
question would be, does that happen within the division? Would the Texans let the Colts go up to get their
That might
franchise
drive the
quarterback?
price up more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. I think, just to circle back to the Paris thing real quick, though, another part of that to me is I really do like Paris Johnson as a tackle prospect. I don't view him as the type of tackle prospect that is like getting that type of draft capital invested in him. I don't view any tackle prospect in this class like that. But I think what it is you look at the tackle class and say, okay, which one of these guys is going to play left tackle immediately in the NFL? And it's Paris Johnson Jr. And then who? And I don't know that it's anybody else. So I don't know that that's smoke. If it say it is true, let's believe the smoke screen for a second. I think it's not so much about Paris as a player. It's about the quality of the tackle class in believing where those guys are going to be on Sundays. Because I think there's a lot of right tackles, and I think there's a lot of potential left tackles down the line, but not from day one.
Yeah, and then that's why, I mean, spoiler alert, if you're going back to watch the pre-draft process, I had the Steelers. I traded up to 9 with Jake to take the Bears pick, and I took Paris Johnson Jr. And part of my reasoning was like, if you're going to trade up for a tackle, that's the only one that you could take and trade up for that I think is justifiable, because everyone else, I'd rather just sit at 17 and see what comes to you, because after Paris Johnson Jr., you're looking at a bunch of right tackles that you're decided between. I don't think any of those guys are coming in and playing left tackle from day one. He's the only one that has the capability of doing so. So that's why if that's the pick, that should be the first tackle off the board because of that reasoning. He can play the most pivotal position unless you are Miami. But I think that I don't think the Steelers are going to trade up for him. The more that I've thought about it, I think there's been a lot of talk that they could, and they've talked with it was the Bears.
That almost
and the
makes
Titans.
you feel like it's less likely. The fact that it's like just so believed that it's going to happen.
I just don't. And you mentioned it last night that they've been saying who they want if they're trading up.
That doesn't happen.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the Steelers are going to stay at 17 and just kind of see what falls into their lap.
I can't say what I think because we're going against each other, but
yeah.
I
don't know. I just don't see it really happening because there's only one guy that I'd move up for at that position, and that's him. Between that, I mean, one of the ones, the tackle that I would take at 17 if Paris Johnson Jr. was not there, people are going to argue you could probably get at 32, and that's Anton Harrison. So I think my opinion might be just skewed a little bit based off of who I like at the tackle draft. But even same thing with like corner, because we know we mentioned like if a corner starts to slide, could they trade up to take like a Christian Gonzalez? Again, I'm not giving up the capital that it will take to go get
that's
a corner,
a conversation,
especially because the corners they're a lot deeper in this class than most of the other positions. And I would be happy taking someone like a Deontay Banks, Joey Porter Jr., or anyone else in that range, rather than giving up the extra draft capital that you have and trading up.
That's a conversation that Derek and I had too, because we had a bunch of people asking about moving up, and it's like on the surface, your immediate reaction, at least for me, you, and with him, it was as well, is no, because of the perceived draft capital it would take to do so. But what if you're in a situation where it's like you look at the move the Lions made last year because of like just not a great draft class, or at least at the time it didn't look like it was going to be. That's how people are actually viewing this one now. But the Lions to go from 32 to 12 didn't take much. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a situation where the Steelers are the only team trying to move up, and the team that they're trying to trade up with is like hell bent on getting out of that pick, maybe it doesn't cost as much. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it just takes like a third rounder or something, like pick 80 to move up to get one of these tackles that slid or something. Sure, sign me up. But if you're talking about getting into a bidding war where you're including a second rounder this year, a future second rounder or something like that, another pick down the line, anything like that type of haul, then no, then I am out, because, and I think the Steelers would be too, based off the fact that they like this cornerback class. They've made it very clear that they do. They brought in 7 for pre-draft visits out of their top 30 that they can use. I mean, they've made it very clear in my mind that if they don't get one at 17, they like a group of guys at 32. They like a group of guys at 49. They could like a group at 8. Like down the board, there are guys that they like in each round. So I don't think that they're going to feel like, okay, we got to take one at 17 or we got to move up to get one to secure one of these guys.
Yeah, and I think that they should feel that way in some respect at tackle too. Just because you do have that 30-second pick. And like I said, there's guys that perceived could be there at 32 that I would be willing to take. Like I mentioned, Harrison. I mean, I think whether it is corner or tackle, and I feel like, are we just like throwing out any other position? It's probably going to be
The
one of
one
those
that
two.
I could see something along the defensive line in like a break the glass worst
Like
case
Miles
scenario where we
Murphy.
saw or Lucas Van Ness. I'll even throw Nolan Smith in there. Like if we see 3 corners go, or 4 corners go, I should say, because I really do believe that they like all 4 of those guys at the top. I think they have Porter Jr. and Deontay Banks probably pretty close. If all 4 of those guys go, I don't even know what to think of Skoronski within that tackle group. So I'm saying
I've
Broderick.
completely written him out. That
I'm
might be
thinking about
wrong in my
Broderick,
case.
Harris, and Darnell Wright. So say like that group of 7 is gone, and that's like a worst case scenario for the Steelers, I think then at that point you're talking about a Lucas Van Ness or a Nolan Smith, Brian Brzee. So I think defensive tackle could be the one that's in play, kind of. If it's not tackle or cornerback, if you were asking me to pick a third spot, that's where I would be looking.
Yeah, because at that point, I mean, there would have to be a huge run of tackles, a huge run of corners. That would be interesting to see if that was the way it played out, what the quarterback draft was looking like too. Because I mean, you're expecting at least 4 quarterbacks to be taken
Tennessee
before
probably
17.
wouldn't have had to move from 11. They probably could have gotten one at 11.
You could just say Levis.
Levi.
Yeah, Will Levi. I don't know. I have a tough time because, I mean, I'm not going to say whether I think the Colts are going to move up or not, but I do think they're going to take one regardless.
Oh, they have to.
And I have a tough time deciding, and I'm not asking you which one you're going to say because we're competing each other, but I have a tough time deciding whether it's going to be Levis or Richardson. And yes, that's a spoiler that I've rolled out Richardson for the Texans, but
well, you also just rolled out Stroud for the Colts.
Yeah, well, you know,
you're giving me too much insight into what your draft's looking like.
That's fine. I'm probably going to lose anyway, so I'm accepting that already.
The one thing, and I'm putting you on the spot because Derek put me on the spot. If you got 3 guesses, not for the first round, just in general, 3 names, possibilities, best chances to be Pittsburgh Steelers by the end of the draft, which 3 names would you throw out there?
Okay. Man, this is tough. Because now I have to think about not just 17. Okay. I'll say
if we say any of the same 3, I'll be impressed.
This is terrible podcasting, but I need to look up players.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to find like their pre-draft.
Well, kind of.
They have a lot. They've shown a lot of interest in a lot of guys.
Yeah. I'll say I don't know if I should say 17 because like who I think will be 17.
I said one guy. I said one guy that would have to go in round 1 for sure.
All right. I think it's Darnell Wright. Just feels like it's going to be a pick.
That's not the tackle I said, but I like it. I think
that just feels like one.
Yeah, I said Broderick in that one.
Okay. See, I just don't know if Broderick's going to be at 17. Right. I mean, maybe they trade up for Broderick. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be that scenario.
Okay. And if that's the case, I don't know which one. I'm looking at position. I mean, it's the 2 positions we've been talking about. Spoiler alert. But I'm looking at outside of the top 4. I look at the next few guys, and I'm looking at like Emmanuel Forbes, Cam Smith, and Keely Ringo. I feel like Cam Smith is going to be a first-round pick, so I think he's going to be gone. And then I think there's a chance that or Smith or Forbes. I feel like both could be, neither could be, but I feel like at least one of them is going to be. And I feel like Keely Ringo is there's a very good possibility that he's a Steeler.
I said Julius Brents, but I thought about Ringo.
Okay.
And then the like last Julius one Brents. Is on the defensive line.
The defensive line?
Yes.
Well, if I'm picking the same position, there's two guys that I'd look at right now. One plays for Wisconsin, the other plays for USC.
Okay.
And I would say Keanu Benton just because the Steelers don't like the West Coast.
Keanu Benton, and that's the one I feel the best about. Wisconsin.
Oh, so we agreed on that one.
Keanu Benton coming from Wisconsin. Wisconsin defensive scheme is very similar to the Steelers. That's what everybody says. They're the college version's defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's why you see them take guys from there quite regularly from that defense. And they seem like Keanu. If you were just, I could have said all three along the defensive line. Keanu Benton, Gervon Dexter, Mozzie Smith. I think one of those guys is a Steeler after this weekend. But I wanted to diversify my positions, so that's why I went the route that I did on his show. But I was just interested to see what you said. And Keanu Benton, I feel the most strong about. Like if I was asked to name one player, that's it. Keanu Benton would be my pick. And I'm curious as to what type of that would probably to me be 49. Hopefully it wouldn't be 32, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would hope it was 49.
He's a really good player, though.
I also don't know which one, but I have a weird feeling that one of their top 4 picks could be a tight end. And
I hope so. I don't know that everybody's on board with me, but I would love it. Assuming it's not like somebody that I wouldn't take within the first 4 rounds, but assuming it's part of like this tight end class everybody's talking about that's so good.
No, like instead of defensive line, or say they do go actually no, they can't skip out on corner. I feel like they can't do that. But I was gonna say maybe what if they took like Sam Laporta at 49 instead of Benton or another defensive lineman.
I don't know what I'm gonna. I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do if that happens because I'll be that excited.
Yeah, this tight end class is really good. I think it makes sense, and I don't know if this guy. Also, hold on. Let me see. Did the Steelers meet with him? The Steelers meet with Jordan Battle.
I don't see him.
Okay. Well, never mind. I was going to say, just looking at the types of players, I feel like Jordan Battle could be one if he was there at 80. Only because I'm looking to fill in a role that Terrell Edmonds leaves.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
And he plays similar in terms of like being good in the run game and playing in the box well. So
yeah, maybe that's not even really in their radar though.
It might not be. I don't know. I'm just looking.
With adding Keanu Neal, maybe they just feel like that's.
Yeah, and that's me mainly looking at, okay, this player left. How can I mimic that player?
Yeah. Makes sense. But anyways, yes, join us round 1 and round 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. We will be live here with some of our friends, just watching along, doing some giveaways throughout it. And yes, send us your best video reaction of the Steelers round 1 pick, and you can win a jersey if it's our favorite reaction. And the person buying that jersey will be determined by whoever has the least amount of points between Tyler and I's first round mock drafts. Switching over to talk about the Pirates, I'm very pleasantly surprised to report, first on this, by the way, breaking news. I knew about it 2 days before it happened. I just didn't put it out there. That Bryan Reynolds and the Pirates have agreed to an 8-year, $106.75 million extension, including an option for 2031 for $20 million or a $2 million buyout. No opt-out, a 6-team modified no trade. Total value could be up to 122.75. This is amazing to me. I mean, just as I keep going back to that video of that clip that we talked about before the season started. Or no, it was when the season started, but before the home opener, when it seemed like there was some progress on it, but he was looking for the opt-out. And I mean, I literally feel this way still today, that getting that extension done was the biggest move moving forward for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That they've made, that they had to make this move, in my opinion. It sets a precedent for future guys, the O'Neal Cruzes, the Andy Rodriguez's, the hopefully Dylan Cruz in the very near future, Tamar Johnson. These guys, you have something to work towards. Like, this payday is possible in Pittsburgh. And granted, Bryan certainly wanted to be here. He took less than he could have gotten on the open market to make it work. I think that obviously, in order to make it work, that had to happen, and we knew he was going to have to concede some there on the financial to make it work. But this is just totally like a changing of the guard and a culture shift. We're just watching it take place in real time. Like a legit top, I don't know, 10 outfielder in baseball, top 10, at least at his position, wanted to be in Pittsburgh and wanted to see through something special. He's already established himself here. I tweeted about this, but like, you see these takes, oh, Bryan Reynolds needs to fire his agent. Like, listen, I'm all about players getting as much money as possible if that's what they want to do. But I also totally respect when a guy who's already built something somewhere decides he wants to see the process through because he feels like something special is happening there. And it just feels so good to be a Pirates fan right now. And I absolutely, along with everybody else, cannot believe that those words just came out of my mouth on the show. But that's where we are in 2023.
Yeah. And, that's something that you and I had talked about preseason. We thought, okay, it hasn't gotten done. We don't even know if it's going to get done at all at this point.
Oh, there was a point where I thought this was his last season. Like, maybe
the
deadline.
It's a higher possibility that he's either going to move to the deadline or move to the next offseason, and he's not going to be a Pirate anymore. And this completely turns on that. And what's funny is like, so the Pirates, we didn't even mention this. So last week when we recorded, they had won game 3 of that 7-game winning streak the night we were recording. But then they lose their first game against the Dodgers on Tuesday night.
Still 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah. And so what does Mr. Nutting do to cheer us all up is leaks the credentials for the trade. Yeah. I think it was really just shy away from the loss. Here, have something else. And it was an extension for Reynolds. I mean, this is great. Like you said, this sets a precedent for all future prospects in the Pirates organization. It shows that you can get a contract here. If you are willing to work and play well and play up to what you're capable to, you can be rewarded for it. And you're not just going to be shipped off like the narrative is for basically any Pirates fans narrative, or not really Pirates fans, but the notion around baseball towards the Pirates is like, you get good and then they don't pay you and they trade you. This shows you, especially with like the no opt-out, that like you can be in Pittsburgh for a long time and they reward you with it. And so I think like the next ones I'm looking at are Cruz and Keller. I think Keller probably is the number one.
The reason I didn't throw Keller in there is I was looking at guys that could stretch that like 80 to 100. Like, I don't see Keller as getting that type of money, but fair point to throw him in. Like, because he's probably the next one that you're looking at to extend.
Yeah, no, that is the next one I'm looking at. I mean, obviously Cruz would be deserving of it at some point, but Keller's been here, and we've seen the progression that Keller and the work that he's put in to get to the point that he is right now, and I think that deserves a reward as well. But I just, whenever that news dropped, I mean, I just saw somebody tweet Reynolds, and I immediately searched through for what was going on, and it was the not trade details, the contract details. Trade details would have been much more depressing.
Different conversation.
Yeah, sorry, Yankees fans. But the contract and the fact that he's going to be here, I can't even put it into words. Like, well, now, I can buy his jersey and feel comfortable about it. But also, just like, I just feel way better about the Pirates organization. And I don't want to say like I have full trust in the entire organization now, but this has taken such a load off of a lot of fans' shoulders, I feel like, because you've never really been able to trust the team probably for the last like 5-ish years or so, ever since we started trading away like Cole and McCutchen, which like at that time, it was definitely felt like the right thing to do to try to get into a place that you want to be as an organization. You have to like recoup yourself. But I felt like a lot of the fan base lost the trust in the organization. And that's especially whenever everybody was driving home the nutting stuff and sell the team, not my owner, all that sort of stuff. I feel like obviously this doesn't like it doesn't help all the wounds that were created, but this is a huge step. I mean, bringing back Kutch was one thing. Then we get this a month later. I mean, what's the next thing? I like you said, it's probably a Keller extension, but I feel like this is just not only great PR move, smart baseball move as well, and it's showing that this team believes that they're not going to be bad forever. That they think that they're going to contend, because if that's genuinely what they thought, he would have been shipped off. And so the fact that they're able to extend him, that shows that the Pirates are in a situation where they think that they're going to be good. And they have been playing well this season. Whether it turns out to be this season or not, they get back to the postseason. That'd be awesome. I think it'd be a little early, way earlier than expected. But I think that they're showing like, hey, we believe in this team. We believe that this team and this core can get us back to the postseason. And this is us showing that we believe in this core as well. And that's like a fresher breath of fresh air, because for a while it didn't seem like there was any hope that this was going to be done.
Well, that's the way so that's where to me it comes in. Like, this is an all around good deal. Like I mentioned the reasons that I thought it was in terms of setting a precedent for guys that are now looking to like chase that payday down the line. Like, okay, you have something to work towards, but also how about how it makes the guys on the current team feel? Like, oh, like all of a sudden you're looking at it like, wow, okay, they're committing to this being a thing right now. Like, they feel like this team is ready to go, whether it's like, okay, obviously, I don't know that they're totally there yet. Like we're mentioning, like, spoiler alert, I don't want to like rain on anybody's parade. I'm enjoying this as much as everybody right now. They're probably overachieving a little bit right now. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So, but just when you look at the MLB roster and you see a guy on the roster like totally break the mold for what the Pirates have done as an organization. This is $106 million. This is the first contract they've handed out worth more than what, 70 with Hayes. So, I mean, that's a far cry from that gap between first and second. Like, this is totally breaking the mold for the organization. And that's your teammate. So that shows you where this team feels like they are. Like, so I think that this is just all around good for everybody. And it just totally changes the mood of how you feel for the rest of 2023, as well as going forward. Maybe they are, a little bit further along than we thought, because you bring in the veterans that you've gotten from McCutchen and Santana and Connor Joe, the way these guys have performed from a pitching perspective. Like, I know we like to harp on, but it's not like Rich Hill's been terrible. He's had some actually quality starts within this. Vince Velasquez has been a really nice surprise. And Oviedo, man, if he keeps pitching the way that he has, it's going to be hard for me to continue to hate that Quintana deal as much as I did last year when they moved him. So, just all around good things right now. To your point, though, you brought up like what's next in terms of an extension. Bob Nutting at the press conference did like mention this, and that's why it's like, okay, time to put your money literally where your mouth is, because he said he feels like this is kind of like just getting started on extensions. Like, they still have a lot of work to do. This is just the beginning. That's not exactly the wording that he used, obviously, but something along those lines. I look at the team and I'm like, man, who could he possibly be talking about? Like, Mitch Keller to me is really the only one that like jumps off the page. I feel like O'Neal Cruz, the motivation for an extension there would be totally from the team, and it'd be because you're probably trying to like buy low. Like, right now he's injured, and he also has come nowhere close to like what you feel like he can be as a player. So they'd probably be trying to lock him up well under what they expect the market value to be down the line. Mitch Keller's the only one I'm circling like, okay, this is the one that I could see happening between now and first pitch of the 2024 season.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's not a case of necessarily an extension like what
Bednar
we
would
would
be
think.
interesting.
That's what I was about to say. I think Bednar might be more so buying out arbitration years than actually like giving an extension. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? Like kind of
Well,
like
what
how
Reynolds
like the
was doing before he
like
got
yeah, like the Reynolds. It was technically it was an extension, but they was really buying out his arbitration years to a certain number. I feel like Bednar could be the case with that, but
he's so awesome.
bes- besides that, there's not really anybody that stands out. And yeah, the Cruz one would feel a little premature. Like obviously you expect it to come at some point, but I just don't feel like he has been up here long enough to really get to that point yet. Because I mean maybe
That's what I'm saying.
to
I
your
feel like
point,
you're
like
trying to get
maybe
him
it's
on
just
like
the organizational like buying low.
yeah.
Which
I
I don't. Do you? I mean, do you even think he would agree to that?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think
It's so
so.
hard to say but you've seen players like on that first contract, whether it be like look at Marte's first deal or Polanco's first deal, even McCutcheon's first year wasn't much. Like, and then I look at around the league and I see like Ozzy Albies, the contract he has with the Braves. Like, it all just depends. I mean, I don't know that money's the main motivation there. These guys also haven't seen that type of money ever. Like, so it's
Yeah,
possible that he would, but I'm just like forecasting, man, this guy, assuming everything clicks for him, is going to have a much larger payday down the line. It does feel a bit premature from his side to me. If I'm the team, I have no problem investing in him right now, what it would probably take. But if I'm him, I'm not signing an extension right now whatsoever because I want to have the type of season that I know I can have. I want to have a, 30-30 type season, which he's capable of having before even thinking about negotiating a contract extension.
yeah. You know, after tonight, I mean, Jason DeLay might as well negotiate a contract
So
extension.
so I feel bad because I didn't respond to his text because like I was jumping from doing the thing with Derek right into recording this, but Sarge texted me and said, I don't mean to alarm you, but Jason DeLay is slashing 368, 415, 533. Hey, what did I say? What was that like 2-3 weeks ago? I said that's my number one catcher. I understand Hedges is really good defensively.
hmm
I think you're giving up a little bit there, but I think you're giving up a lot with a bat with the way that Jason Delay's been swinging it. And I don't know that that's sustainable, but
It's fun while we have it,
yeah.
and so is winning. I mean, the Pirates have won 7 out of their last 8 games.
Also, I don't even know what to make of G1 Bay, like what he can add to this team because it's like, man, the gaffes that he's been making defensively are just maddening lately. But if he gets on base, he's getting to third, like automatically. It might as well be a triple if he gets an infield single.
Yeah,
So I think that there's value there for sure at the major league level, but it's just been really hard to throw him out there every single day, watch him at some point mess up in the field, and then maybe go like 1 for 4 at the plate. Like, so there's value somewhere within there. It's just a really hard evaluation to what exactly he's bringing to the team.
yeah. I feel like he's really good at making the really flashy plays, and that's what everybody really jumps at towards his fandom. But then they kind of overall ignore a lot of the bad that's going on, and they focus on the flashiness that he's shown. He's
Yeah,
very inconsistent. It feels like.
that must be it. But the last thing I want to talk about with the Pirates is we've talked about this, I feel like, at nauseum over the last few seasons in terms of Derek Shelton feeling like he's not like he's a good manager for a club that as they get to where they want to be. But then when they get there, is he going to be able to be the guy because of a lot of his like managerial decisions, just not seeming to press the right buttons when it comes to managing the bullpen, some of the lineup decisions, even though like you got to have obviously the guys to put together a lineup, neither
Yeah.
here nor there. He gets an extension. Now, as far as I know, we still have absolutely no clue how long the extension is. We just know his contract doesn't run out after 2023 like it was supposed to. I
Mm-hmm.
want to get a heat check in where you're at with this because obviously the team is playing really well right now. So it'd be very easy to just have like a in the moment reaction and say, well, yeah, the team's playing really well right now. So how can you not want to extend the manager? I am still very skeptical if he's the right guy. but it's just so hard because genuinely he seems like a great guy. I mean, he's embraced Pittsburgh from a community perspective. He's always wearing, the T-shirts to support different causes around the city. Very touching video with Drew Maggi when he got called up, and then obviously his appearance today to officially become a Major League Baseball player. He seems like a really good guy. I am still very curious as to how he's going to manage a team, and I understand they're playing really well right now, but manage a team that has like those goals, those aspirations, is supposed to be playing the way that they are right now and is a legit contender. I don't know what that is, so I don't necessarily have a problem with them extending him. I'm still not like 100% certain that he's the guy, just based off of, this small sample size.
Yeah, and I think whenever you look at what he took over, it makes sense why the team was so bad for the first few seasons of
We had
the
a long way to
Shelton
go. Yeah.
regime. Yeah, he really took over a sinking ship and had to fix it. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing with this season is compared to those previous rosters, this team is a lot more full. They have a lot more depth at each position. And so granted, even though they're playing probably ahead of schedule and they're overplaying what they should be right now, I think that it would have improved this year regardless, just because of the roster. Now, I don't know that they'd be 17 and what are we 17 and 8, I think. But I do think that it would have righted itself. However, I do think that not necessarily that he deserves the extension, but I'm fine with the extension. I think that he hasn't really done anything for me to not really warrant it. But I don't think that he has not done anything to give it to him either. He's just kind of there. It was going to expire at the end of the season. And so
I think that's the thing.
Do you really want to go into next season not having a manager? And I feel like you're just in the position where you kind of had to extend him regardless of the situation. Unless you were going to really be doing super bad this year and you're talking like 3 straight 100 loss seasons, which obviously that shouldn't be the case. Then you can move on from him. But the fact that they do have this turnaround, this good like month and a half of baseball that they've had so far, I feel like then it makes sense. But I also don't know, like you said, whether he's going to be the manager when this team is really trying to contend. And there's things that we mentioned in the past that you talked about, his management of the lineup, some of his deployment decisions on certain days, like. It kind of drives me nuts when he decides to sit people for certain matchups, even though I guess matchups make sense sometimes, but it doesn't really matter to me. Just play your best players. Also, like the bullpen, sometimes his deployment of pitchers in certain situations can be skeptical. All this to say, like, he hasn't really done anything not to deserve it, but he hasn't really done anything to deserve it either. And I think that the Pirates are making the decision mainly because he was going to be running out of his tenure at the end of 2023. So that's what really makes sense to me. I don't really care either way at this point.
Yeah, I think what I was about to say is I think the unfortunate part, not like unfortunate, but like I guess I just wish that his contract already was through 2024. Unless, I mean, maybe it was just a 1-year extension. Because like I wouldn't want to extend him, 2 or 3 years into that window. Because if they're already where they're at right now, like say this is legit where they are, now you're committing to him being the manager of this team for a few years. I mean, and they could fire him. Don't get me wrong. Then it just becomes a question: are they going to fire him and pay another manager?
Yeah,
and it's just so that's why I wish his contract originally. I just shook my camera there. Just went through 2024. That's all I was getting at.
Yeah, it's not really a needle mover for me. It's interesting that it happened, but doesn't really change anything in my view of the team.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, it's great for him. Great to see people get extended. I'd rather see people getting extended for doing these types of things than getting fired and people losing their jobs. So everything is coming up Pirates right now. Still in first place, despite that loss that we mentioned which by the way, up 7-2 in that game and ended up losing 8-7. But I feel like they were kind of due for one of those losses. With everything was going a little bit too good.
Yeah. I mean, you won 7 in a row.
I mean, yeah, Holderman had been dancing through raindrops every appearance, it seemed like, this year. So like he was due to give up one. And who was it that hit? Was it Chris Taylor that got him? Or was it? Yeah, because Mootie's the one that got robbed by Sawinski.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was. But I mean, it's the Dodgers, so it sucks to blow a lead. But if you're gonna blow a lead to a team, at least make it a good one.
hopefully they can take the series afternoon game, so you don't have to worry about it interfering with the NFL draft tomorrow night. They play at 12:35, which means a lot of you might not even have listened or watched this by the time that the game has gone on. Who knows? I don't know when people watch or listen. People don't watch or listen to this anyway. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, and then it'll start probably the day before we record next week's episode. Clash of the Titans. The Pirates are playing the Rays.
World Series preview. Yep. In between,
And
they got the Nationals this week.
Nationals over the weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see another sweep. Who knows?
Really, I am looking forward. They got the Rays and Blue Jays back to back, and I will be at one of those Blue Jays games.
That's pretty cool.
So I'm looking forward to that. First free shirt Friday of the season. They don't do them every Friday home game now. They do them one Friday a month.
Bro, what the heck is? Did we move to the AL for like 2 weeks? We got the Rays and then the Blue Jays. The Rockies are sandwiched.
The schedules now. You play every team. So.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, still, this is like AL weeks because they're playing the Rays and then they play the Blue Jays. The Rockies are sandwiched in between those and the Orioles and then the Tigers.
Yeah, and then they got the Rangers and Mariners after the Diamondbacks. So yeah,
what are we doing?
Going into a lot of the rest of spring, basically, is a lot of AL.
They play the A's at the beginning of June.
Yeah.
Which what they're moving to Vegas?
They're
getting a stadium in Vegas.
I know.
And apparently Salt Lake City is filing to get a team in Salt Lake, and it's going to be like near my sister's house.
From a scenic perspective, great location. Can they get the fan base there?
See, I've discussed this with people in Utah. I think they can get the fan base there.
I'm legitimately asking. I'm not saying I'm not doubting it.
I think they can get the fan base there. I mean, Salt Lake City is a huge metro area. Granted, the population, and I've talked about this, like the population of Utah, and I'll just say this for Pittsburgh or like Pennsylvania purposes, it's like 3 times smaller than Pennsylvania. Does not feel like it in the slightest. It feels like it's way bigger than Pennsylvania because of how crowded everybody is. I mean, the Salt Lake Valley, just the valley is the size of Beaver County. Beaver County has about 150,000-ish people, 160,000 people. The Salt Lake Valley has like 1.2, 1.3 million in it. I mean, it is packed. I do think that they can have a fan base there. I mean, Utah loves sports. I've always said that I think it would be harder for an NFL franchise to go into Salt Lake City than it would be for a baseball franchise to go into Salt Lake City. Because if you are a fall sports team, especially NFL football, you are competing with BYU and Utah. And I hate to break it to whatever NFL team would move there. I am confident in saying you would be the third biggest. On Sundays. You would be the third biggest team. I'm very confident in saying that. Yeah, you're playing on Sundays too. A portion of your fan base wouldn't go. But baseball, I do think there's a demographic for baseball. There are baseball fans there. The Salt Lake Bees are currently there.
Oh yeah, that's Angels, right?
Yeah.
So Trout played there.
Trout did play there. My aunt got to see Trout play, but I do think that there's a good chance that, and honestly, I think that it would look great too. I saw the concept that they made of the stadium. It would go in a town called Daybreak, which is literally where my sister lives. So
nice. Okay. Anything else?
Interesting stuff. No. This is our shortest show in a couple weeks, so let's just get out of here.
Once again, bunch of GoFundMe links and stuff like that in the description. Please check them all out. The Isla Keen Fund, the Lemasters Family Fund. Am I forgetting anything as far as?
We're going to be posting Haley's links for the
custom designs. I just meant the GoFundMe stuff.
GoFundMe's, I believe that's it.
Okay.
And then we have the Everything Custom Designs, and as well, it's not in the links, but we've talked about it every show. The Dalton Keene golf outing, held at Blackhawk Golf Course on. Is it May 13th?
Yep, coming up, 2 p.m.
And I don't. Are they done taking teams? It was $100 for a foursome, but
yeah, I believe so. I mean, I
Okay.
I just got my hair cut a couple days ago, and Christian was telling me that he was playing in it, and he thought that the spots were full. So
okay,
I
okay.
think so. So at this point, yeah, you just be coming to hang out and eat and drink with us,
Hang
which
out,
still sounds
you
like a
know.
pretty good time. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for tuning into this program. Hit up Haley with Everything Custom Designs if you would like to. She might, I mean, she could probably make you this exact same shirt that I'm wearing right now if you really want to get one and rep around the 412. But stay tuned on the Trust the Button process stuff because I would love to make that happen because I think we're all kind of riding a high with where the Pirates are right now and people are starting to trust the Button process. So stay tuned with that. Join us along with some of our friends Thursday, Friday, for the NFL draft rounds 1, 2, and 3. We'll be live for all of those. Going to have some giveaways during them. Reminder to send us a video reaction to their first round pick, positively or negatively, whatever we find to be the best one, literally along the spectrum. It could be a super angry reaction that we find hilarious, or it could be a super positive one that we find hilarious. Whatever it might be, we will determine which one is the best one, and you will win a jersey of that first round pick. So it's going to be even funnier if we pick somebody that's really upset about the pick and then gets that person's jersey. But yeah, so tune in for that. Follow us everywhere at Around the 412. That's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, like our Facebook page as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a like. Hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. That will be useful as well for going live for the draft because it's not something that we would like. It's not a typical show or video. Like, so we're going to be going live and you guys will get a notification for that. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment down below. Really helps us grow the channel. As Tyler always mentions, we got a different channel going on right now. So if you're not already familiar with that, our link tree is on my page. It's also on Around the 412's page. Literally has every platform in there. It's also on Tyler's page. I wasn't sure. That's why I didn't say that. But confirmed now per sources. It is there too. And it gives you all of our platforms and stuff, and you can subscribe. So be sure to do that. Other than that, we will see you guys when we see you. For Tyler, for Smitty, this is Around the 412, and we'll see you hopefully tonight for the NFL draft. Bye-bye.